We'd like to welcome everyone out this evening for our regularly scheduled city council meeting. It is 6 p.m. and the date is March 17th, 2025. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. I see a lot of green out in the audience. So I don't know if I do have some green on my jacket, so I'll have to leave it on because I don't think I have any more anywhere else. So. But thank you for coming out this evening, taking the time to be here with us. So we will begin our meeting with an invocation offered by Pastor Ryan Stoops of the Deer Flat Free Methodist Church. So if you'd please stand for that, and then please remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord God, we come before you today with humble hearts, grateful for the opportunity to serve this community that you entrusted into our care. We acknowledge that all wisdom and understanding come from you, and we ask for your divine guidance as we meet to discuss these matters before us. Grant us clarity of thought and purity of heart so that we may lead with integrity, fairness, and compassion. May our words be measured, our actions be just, and our decisions be made with wisdom and discernment. Help us to set aside personal agendas and work together in a spirit of unity, always seeking what is best for the people that we serve. We lift up our community before you, its leaders, its citizens, all those in need. May this city be a place of peace, prosperity, and justice, where neighbors care for one another and where righteousness prevails. Bless this meeting, and may everything we do bring honor and glory to you. In all things, let us be guided by your love, seeking to serve others as Christ called us to do. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, Pastor Stoops. We appreciate you being here this evening to help us start our meeting. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Jody,
Here.
Stotty,
Here.
Register,
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Allgood,
Here.
Dittmer.
Here. Very good. Thank you so much. All city council members are present and accounted for. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any council member regarding an item on the agenda this evening? Okay. With that, we do have a number of special presentations tonight, so we'll start first off with our Caldwell Housing Authority Annual Update Report. And this young lady coming forward looks very familiar. If you could just state your name for the record, and then the time is yours.
Okay. I am Dominique Moreno with Caldwell Housing Authority. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening about some great things that have been going on at the Caldwell Housing Authority. Here are some fun facts to start with. In April of 2025 this year, Farmway Village will celebrate its 85th birthday by continuing to provide affordable housing to the workforce and farm labor households. Over its 85-year history, tenants have contributed more than $350 million to the local Caldwell area community. Tenants of the Housing Authority earned approximately $8 million in income last year, most of which was spent locally. A couple months later, in June, the Caldwell Housing Authority will celebrate its 79th birthday, which was created by this governing body here 79 years ago. Farmway Village continues to provide rent at less than 65% of market with no local, state, or federal subsidies. We are the largest H2A agricultural housing provider in the state, and our tenants may directly support 40 to 60,000 acres of agricultural land, further supporting Caldwell's Farm to Fork motto. The Caldwell Housing Authority takes pride on being a friend to the community by providing affordable housing and engaging in worthwhile community projects. We just wanted to highlight a few of these projects that we have been in collaboration with the City of Caldwell. One, as you all know, is the Rice House Project. The CHA moved the historic Rice House from its site at the College of Idaho to where it now forever sits at the corner of Kimball and Chicago Street. Now that it's on its foundation, we are starting to complete the restoration of this magnificent home, and this is to provide affordable housing to first responders. Another note is the capital campaign is full steam ahead for this project. We have begun giving walkthrough tours to anyone who's interested. I am the coordinator for that, so if you are interested, reach out to me, send me an email or call Caldwell Housing Authority. Also, look for the brick campaign that's soon to come, and we hope to see this project being completed in the fall of 2025. Next would be Lions Park improvements. We completed the gazebo and concrete work there, helping improve the area. We also were connected to city water officially on November 5th, and the PSI has never been better, so residents are happy about that. Annexation, CHA has officially started the annexation process. We did hold an annexation meeting. This was on March 3rd, and we had a great turnout. That's still months in the process, but we just started getting that rolling. We also participated in the Family Fun Day. CHA does the Kids Fishing Skills Challenge. Along with that are prizes, and we provide 600 hot dogs for the community to enjoy. And then we also participated in the Wagons Ho event, where we provided 400 hot dogs and refreshments to the community, enjoyed a sunny day outside. Another thing we'd like to show is that we also sponsor many community activities at Farmway Village, and this is for all ages. We do blessing boxes monthly. These are ready-to-eat foods, and we take them to the Caldwell Police Department's blessing box, the Caldwell Library Food Pantry, and any other pantry that may be in need at the time. We also do the drive-through food box distribution. This is simply where everyone stays in their cars and they go through a line. We typically serve 180 families, and we hand out on average 6,000 pounds of food each distribution. Families come from around the Treasure Valley to participate. You do not have to be a tenant. STEM Egg Drop Contest. This is an annual event that we also hold, and it includes the Juvenile Detention Center, Caldwell High, Canyon Springs, and Syringa Middle Schools. We also are proud of this one. We have a Loteria night quarterly. We invite our elderly community members to participate. They get rewards, and they also are given fresh produce, and we do this with the help of Terry Riley and the City of Good. And last but not least, we have the Rolling Tomato. We've partnered with them to provide all of our tenants with fresh produce weekly. We have 2 refrigerators that are designated just for this within our laundry facility. And just a couple more to note off, because we want to give credit to where it's due. Caldwell Library and 4-H, they come out twice a month, and they do after-school activities with our kids out there, such as arts, crafts, and reading, and more. Finally, and most importantly, CHA provides 248 housing units and necessary community resources. We are constantly focused on the future and the opportunities that are presented by the city's growth. We prioritize innovation, diligence, and a strong commitment to the community, and we want to thank you all for your support. And I stand for any questions.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you and everyone at Caldwell Housing Authority. I know there are a few here as well. Just the true asset that you are to the community, what you do, all of you, is just, it goes beyond words, and what you mean to the community out there. You do, as you mentioned, you do so many events for the Farmway Village community, and it means so much, I know, to those people. So thank you, and to everyone else that's out there for what you do. It means so much. Any questions from any council members?
There's a bunch more. I just didn't have time to list everything, but
There is. You
those
do
are
an amazing
main
amount of
ones.
work out there, so.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we still do miss you, so. Dominique used to work here at the city, so she's an incredible employee in person. Our next special presentation is update report from Advocates Against Family Violence. So, and if you could please state your name and introduce yourself and your companion here, and then your time is yours for your presentation.
Tricia Lofton, Operations Director at Advocates Against Family Violence.
And I'm Michelle Stimmel, the Finance Director with Advocates Against Family Violence.
So Mayor and members of City Council, first we want to thank you for your support ongoing to Hope Store, our shelter. The funds allocated for our programs make a significant impact on providing critical resources for our shelter and support services for individuals and families affected by domestic violence. And I know Debbie had handed out our annual numbers for 2024. That's for all the programs that we offer. In 2024, we provided 7,728 direct outreach services to folks living in Caldwell alone. Of that, 1,730 of those were women and 742 males. We also provided emergency shelter to 77 women and 64 children in our 120-day emergency shelter for folks fleeing domestic violence. And we housed 245 individuals in the apartments at Hope Plaza on our campus.
Thank you, Tricia. So the funding that we received from the city of Caldwell, it helped support these clients through emergency shelter stays, as Tricia was discussing, case management, counseling, healthy relationship classes, and that's for youth and adults, court advocacy and other support groups that we offer for the community and for our Hope Store residents. Specifically, these fundings went directly to clients by supplying fuel cards. So as we know, there's a lot of transportation restrictions in the area. Narcan to reverse opioid overdoses, drug testing kits to promote healthy living, and emergency food supplies. We were able to offer a lot of food boxes for families in needs. Indirectly, the funding helped replace our shelter's 100-plus-year-old roof, which was in dire need of a replacement, and then we were able to install gutters to prevent future issues with water damage. We're currently working on painting the shelter's interior to ensure the longevity. It's definitely a must-have in Canyon County.
We truly appreciate the ongoing support and commitment, so we can continue to help folks in Caldwell and all of Canyon County, actually. We're the only emergency shelter.
Very
So,
good. Well, thank you for all that you do as well. So I know it's very needed, and the services you provided in that regard. So I do see a light here. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have you gotten your new roof yet?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, that's
There's
good.
no more
Yes.
leaks.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, and the gutters are coming.
Yes.
Very good. Yes, we've had a wet spring, so that's good to
Yeah.
have. Excellent. Any other questions? Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that very much. And our last special presentation, the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce. So I'm looking at Travis, but he's looking behind him. So very good, Mr. Pilot. Appreciate you being here tonight. So if you don't mind just stating your name for the record, and then the time is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Rob Pilot, and I wanted to take a moment to present an opportunity to you that I'm really excited about. In March of 2024, a group of us began to meet regularly as part of a grassroots effort to discuss how we could do our part to help build upon the positive aspects that downtown Caldwell has seen and experienced over the last few years. Our goal was to rekindle the momentum for the future vision of our downtown core and the role of the surrounding areas from downtown, all while being mindful of both the opportunities and the challenges that come with a thriving downtown. Now, the original plan in 2015 to revitalize our downtown stated that the plan should be revisited within 5 years to reevaluate and update the vision. And now, as of 10 years later, that remains undone. Many of the key policymakers and the initial revitalization efforts have retired or moved on from their previous roles, and without their historical perspective or accountability to the original effort that brought many of the wonderful amenities to the people of Caldwell that we now enjoy, there's a sense that the vision for the future of downtown Caldwell has kind of lost its way. So our group, consisting of Bob Carpenter and Bob Jenkins, Travis Palmer from the Chamber, and Danae Warren from Destination Caldwell, along with myself, they're all here present tonight, met on Tuesdays to proactively collaborate, working towards solutions to existing obstacles, and craft a path towards a long-term vision for Caldwell's future. Rather than chasing the next big thing, we focused on developing a realistic plan that fosters community buy-in, accountability, and long-term success. Our hope is to bring an approach that ensures the opportunities that present themselves now, as well as in the future, are evaluated with a consistent, structured framework allowing for long-term, cohesive decision-making that benefits all of the community. So geographically, we considered downtown's current success as the epicenter, and we expanded outward to the natural boundaries of the Boise River, I-84, Cleveland Boulevard, and the Caldwell Event Center District. Each of these areas are interconnected and play a key role in how we manage and plan for Caldwell's future. As our discussions evolved, we realized quickly that our role wasn't to dictate Caldwell's future, but rather to seek out and engage experts who specialize in this area. This aligns with the recommendations of both the Caldwell 2014 Downtown Revitalization Plan, which calls for periodic review, and the 2009 Master Framework Plan, which emphasizes ongoing updates and strategic direction. To address this, we reached out to several urban planning firms to best find the path forward. After more than a year of research, we believe the right person for the job is the same individual who played a key role in Caldwell's past success, Roger Brooks. Roger is one of America's leading experts in economic development, downtown revitalization, tourism, place branding, and placemaking. His previous work in Caldwell is evident throughout downtown, and his collaborative approach prioritizes extensive public input. As Roger himself states, a tremendous amount of public input, research, collaboration with stakeholders is key to building community. Nearly half of Roger's focus is on community engagement, making him an ideal partner to help shape Caldwell's future. His prior achievements in downtown minimizes risk in this new opportunity, as much of his success stands around us today. And his emphasis on strengthening community identity makes him a natural choice to help plan for what we as a community want our town to be in the future. With the recent completion of the updated comp plan, we believe the timing is right to bring Roger back to refine our vision. His proposal does not replace the work done by Robin Collins or her team. Rather, it complements and strengthens it. Additionally, Roger's expertise could provide valuable input regarding recent discussions had about revitalizing the north end of Caldwell and the role a new urban renewal may play in that area if a district is formed. Tonight, on behalf of our group, we formally present Roger's proposal for your consideration. We respectfully request the full support of this body, along with an investment commitment of $168,000 from this year's budget to hire Roger Brooks to create the Downtown Master Development Plan 2025. And then members of the group are here tonight, so if we would all stand for questions should you have any. So, thank you.
Excellent, thank you so much, appreciate that. Appreciate the time and effort that you've all put into it. Like I said, it's, grassroots is a great thing, and it's nice to see the community come together like that to come up with a solution. And I agree, yeah, it's overdue to have this relooked at and make sure we're continuing going in that same direction. So appreciate all the time and effort that you put into it. So,
Thank you.
Councilor Doty.
Thank you. How you doing, Rob?
Good, Councilor Doty, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Hey, I think you touched on a little bit during your presentation, but you said you reached out to several other firms or, yeah, and so what, can you emphasize maybe what brought Roger to the top, or the other way, what excluded those
Sure.
other potential?
We met with Kimley Horn, who's done some work for the city, and we met with a group called Opticos, who is kind of behind the movement of the missing middle housing. And both firms were very knowledgeable, but I can tell you that what we felt like we needed was someone to bring the community together and sell the vision of Caldwell. And they were more nuts and bolts oriented. And we thought that given the work done for the comp plan, they may be able to provide infill, but at the end of the day, we needed a trusted brand with success in Caldwell and a salesman, and that was Roger Brooks.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilor, all good.
There we go. Thank you, and I want to express my appreciation for you guys spending so much work doing what you've done. When we brought Roger here the first time, I was kind of skeptical. I wasn't sure we were putting our money in the right place or not. but he exceeded I believe he exceeded all of our expectations. And basically, his architecture is what made downtown Caldwell what it is. And I'm in agreement that now is not the time to rest on our laurels and say, hey, we did a good job. We need to continue our success. And so, again, thank you, and you have my support. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman.
Counselor Stoddard?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, maybe Mrs. North can help us out with this. The money that they're requesting, you've got some ideas on that?
So, I did work with multiple departments, and based off of what planning and zoning and public works and some savings in the general fund from something not being spent this year, we have, and then some matching funds from, I believe, other sources, such as Destination Caldwell, that we do have the available funding to do it in this fiscal year if that is something that the council wanted to do right away, or we could budget for it for fiscal year '26, but that would not start until October.
Good, thank you.
Well, so I'm in support of this, and I think it sounds like we have the money. So for that, but, and I just wanted to be sure that this doesn't compete with the urban renewal they were talking about at the last urban renewal meeting, or how that would work.
That's a great point, thank you. And someone who's versed in urban renewal can probably direct me on this, but it used to be that you could just create an urban renewal district and you could craft what you wanted to do with the increment from there. But I believe the statute has changed that now you have to come up with a list and identify how you want to spend that money before you create a district. So in our minds, it makes sense to bring Roger in and have his input on what that project list looks like before we implement a district, because otherwise we're going to be doing the cart before the horse.
Okay, so they would actually kind of work hand in hand. You would just have to do urban, or this project first, and then urban renewal later?
Yeah, I mean, urban renewal is a tool, and
Yeah.
we want to have that toolbox open to, for whatever success we can achieve with Roger or without. So.
Thank you.
Counselor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to thank you and your contributors for personal sacrifice to come to us tonight. I believe you want the best for the city, and I'm not against this. I did hear some alarming information earlier today, though, that I think now is as good a time as any to throw this out there. And I don't know, Raylan, did you get the memo from the state that sales tax is way off from what their projection was? No, I did not. And that was released last week, and so suddenly I'm very concerned about our financial position and how we're gonna stand and where we're gonna be.
Sure.
And it was a dramatic miss. And then a lowering expectation for next year. And so, as much as I'm thoroughly enthusiastic about this, it's a lot of money to spend knowing we might be going into some tumultuous times, and I would have to rely on Raylinda to help me understand where that puts us. But thank you again for the work you've contributed to this personally, and
Sure.
your friends as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Counselor Doty?
Just one clarifying, since we're talking about money. I just want to clear this up. Is it 168,000 total, or with matching funds, or whether it be more funds to reduce the 168, or how are we too far out to have answers on that yet? Thank you.
The number that I was given was 165,000, and that included matching funds, so not all of that would come from the city. 115,000 of that would come from the city.
All right, and is that your understanding too, Mr. Pilot?
Well, I think conceptually, we believe in bringing Roger back, and if that means that we have to raise the money as a show of support to make this happen. I believe Destination Caldwell has had some preliminary discussions about some level of funding. Whether that gets us to the 168, I don't know, but maybe we can pass the hat around here.
Mr. Mayor, just one follow-up.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think to satisfy both, it looks like most of the council's in support of this, at least those that have spoken, and I just, if it could ease some potentially with some concerns with the budget, if there were money available, if 165 is the total with,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's 50,000 or what it is, but certainly working with Rayland so we can
Sure,
find
and Danae's here if
something.
you'd like her to speak to that. I won't speak for
I don't
Destination
know if she
Caldwell.
wants to right now, but she certainly
Throwing her under the
can't
bus.
make her commit right now without talking to her board. I don't know if Danae wants to come up and address that or not. Kind of put on the
While
spot.
she's coming up,
Sorry.
Counselor Stoddard, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody, I can remember way back when, I think Mr. Algo is probably the only one that outdates me here on the council, but when things were looking pretty bad around Caldwell, that's before Mr. Brooks came in and everything, you know, everybody thought we were out of money, we didn't want to do anything, and some of these local businesses got together and they put their own money into it, and look what happened. And just because sales tax are down doesn't mean that we can't do this. I think sometimes in our overall planning, when our chips are down, that is when you want to do something about it to make sure, instead of waiting for not enough money to come in. So, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Danae, you want to just touch on that real brief?
Sure, yes. Majority board support, I think you can expect $50,000 from Destination Caldwell's budget, and which would offset that 165.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much. Counselor Dittenberg?
I just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to weigh in, that I appreciate your efforts also. I didn't want my silence to be misrepresented as anything, and so I've had a chance to chat with most of the members who of this committee, and you guys have done a great job, and I think you do truly have the best interest of Caldwell in mind. And so my support for Roger Brooks, my support for bringing him in. I was there at the College of Idaho many, many years ago when he first came into town, and we thought, wow, what, is this true? And now we're looking back 10 years and going, it's true, we made a big difference. Sure. So, having said that, I think I also want to echo the sentiments with Councilor Doty and Councilor Williams, that we want to make sure that the financial forecast is where we can contribute that sort of money without, jeopardizing, first responders, because this is a general fund payment, isn't it? Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No, you're
Kind of
good.
diverted.
About 30,000 would come from the general fund, specific to like general fund. 50,000 is budgeted already in P and Z, which is coming from fees. And then multiple other departments, which are more fee-based. So about only 30,000 is coming
And so
from
this
general
would be
fund.
from their fee-based funds or enterprise funds that would be,
Not enterprise funds, but fees, planning and zoning has that in their budget already, which they charge fees to cover their budget. Yes.
I appreciate the fact that you're good stewards of the city's money and that you don't take this lightly. We just think that the clock is ticking, and rather than wait until a budgetary item in the next fiscal year, if we can just find a way to front-end load this and then budget for it afterward, that's fine too. So we just think it's very important.
Yeah. Did you have a follow-up, Counselor Dittenberg?
I did, but that's two questions in a row. I'll let,
I just wanted to clarify something I think I remember. When we're talking 165 or 168,000, Roger's not expected to be paid all up front, right? This is kind of an installment thing over a period of time?
That's a great point. Thank you, Councilman. We have addressed this issue with him, and we realized that we can pay in phases as we go. He has a long list of how he wants to accomplish things from a high-level mission standpoint, and when we hit key metrics, that's when we would pay him. So we don't have to front-end pay.
So we could spread this over 2 budget years is kind of where I was going
Absolutely,
with this.
yeah.
Counselor Dittenberg?
So you made a comment, Rob, and I appreciate this, and this is something that I'm struggling with and the council struggles with, and I would suspect that many people in this room struggle with. And can Roger Brooks garner that sort of public participation that we lacked in almost everything else we've completed over the last couple of years?
Well, that's a tough question for me to answer. I'd like to have Roger here in the room to respond to that. I think we have all been in Caldwell long enough to remember when you couldn't give a building away downtown, and we were going backwards because we were taking streetlights out downtown instead of putting streetlights up or stoplights. And Roger did a lot of good for this community. Now, there's still work to do, and I think half of Roger's effort is community outreach and getting people to buy in and get excited about a plan. And that's why it was so important for us when we looked at the urban planning candidates, that we have someone that could sell the plan, because presenting data and spreadsheets to the community isn't gonna rally the troops and isn't gonna get people passionate about things again, whereas we know Roger is a proven brand that can do those things, so.
Follow up?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So one other question. So the mayor asked this question, so if we truncate this out long enough into different phases, that we could spread this over two different budget years. Has he presented your group with a timetable? Is this a one-year process, a 6-month process, or a 16-month process? What do you?
8 to 10 months is what his projection is, so we could easily straddle, what is it, August is the.
October
fiscal year.
1st is
Yeah.
the beginning of the next
So
budget year.
I think we could easily straddle some of that payment, but, I mean, I'm of the opinion that if we're gonna get Roger here, the sooner the better. Let's get going. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work about the next phase for Caldwell. So,
Councilor Doty?
Just one more comment.
guys have put me on the spot tonight.
I think this is for Ray Lynn, though. If it's best to encumber it this year, I'd prefer to encumber it this year. I think next year might be a tougher year within the budgets of all departments. So if it's best to encumber it this year, I'd rather do that. And if it's best to spread it over two, I'd rather do that. But I would like, at a later point, our finance director to tell us what she thinks is best as well.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for those questions, and thank you again for that presentation. And
Yeah.
we realize the desire to move forward, so I'm sure we'll be in touch, myself and Ray Lynn, with you and the committee to try to get this figured out and bring it back to council for their
Great.
recommendation on it. So,
Thank you for your
okay,
time
thank you so
tonight.
much. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Okay, there's nobody that signed up for audience participation, so that moves us into our consent calendar, and I know we do have one amendment to that calendar.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Doty.
Make a motion to remove item 7 from the consent calendar to new business for further discussion.
Very good. We have a second?
Second.
So all those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? So that motion passes. So, did you want it for audience participation? I did, I got here 5 minutes. Okay, no problem. So we'll just, so I think we did take the vote on it. So yeah, we can go ahead and do that. So before we vote on the amended consent calendar, go ahead and come on up. So much, David. So if you just state your name for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Again, I'm sorry I showed up late.
No problem.
Got out of work late, so thank you for letting me come up here. I appreciate it. David Moore, 711 East Denver, Caldwell. So to kind of piggyback what Mr. Pilot just said, what Mr. Rob Pilot just said, I kind of backed this up to last September to a economic housing development meeting that was held at the College of Idaho, and it was put on by the Caldwell Chamber and I believe Caldwell Housing Authority as well. In that meeting, I ran into an investor here in town. I talked to him about some of these things and about the importance of a master plan. So kind of going through that conversation with him at that time, he suggested this optics design to me. At that time, it just, and I, knew about Roger Brooks, have been to all the meetings when Roger Brooks was here at the College of Idaho. And yeah, Mr. Dittmer, Councilman Dittmer, you were there. I remember all of those meetings. And they were great, very informative, very good. So as I saw what was going on with the agenda here and read that this was going to be proposed, as I looked at optics design and revisited with that investor, got online, looked at optics design and their website, just taking a look at it, I saw some pretty neat things there that talked about public engagement, comment, comprehensive plans, effective public education, site planning, missing middle market solutions, new zoning and development standards and communication of master plans. So I'm pretty impressed with it. I just feel like if we're going to invest the money towards a new master plan, and I totally trust what this group has done with their venting of vendors, of other businesses. I myself would like to see somebody else on top of Roger Brooks' presentation together as they did. Does that make sense? Am I clear on that? So just kind of going through that, I think that it might help us with, being fiscally responsible with infrastructure, housing, and economic development. So with that, I think there was two questions that I would ask if I was on council. Number one, I would ask not just what the price is of Roger Brooks, but what's the price of these others? What did those cost? And I'd also ask, where that breakdown of money is going to come from. I know we're talking about the city funds, BID. Those are business tax dollars, I believe. How much of those are going to be spent on this? So I think that should have been asked right here tonight. So just want to challenge you guys to look at Optics Design and go online and take a look at it. Maybe you might have a question. That's all I have.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
We do
you bet. Thanks for
appreciate
letting
that
me speak, and
additional
happy-
information. Okay, thank you, David. So, okay, so we do have the amended consent calendar. So do we have a motion for approval of that?
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Doty,
make a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
we have a second?
Second.
It's a motion from Counselor Doty with a second from Counselor Stoddard for approval of the consent calendar as amended. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. There's no old business. That'll move us right into new business, and we'll go ahead and take up that first item of the one that was removed from the consent calendar. This is for a resolution authorizing the purchase of school flashing beacon equipment to increase safety for school students as accommodated within the FY25 budget. And appreciate Councilor Stoddard bringing this to light so that we can make sure that this was discussed, as we had had some just very brief discussion on it. So thank you so much, Mr. Mills, for being here tonight. So with that, we'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I guess I'm here to answer any questions you might have on this item.
Do you mind just giving maybe just a quick
Sure,
overview of it, and then
I
we'll go into
can.
some questions?
Absolutely. So currently, our school zones in Caldwell only have signs on them. And the signs basically say speed limit 20 miles an hour from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on school days. They're unfortunately not really effective that way. People tend to just ignore them. And so there's an opportunity here to purchase flashing beacon signs for the schools, and the nice thing is they don't flash from 7 a.m. till 4 p.m. Typically, we would program them to start about a half hour before school in the morning till about 5 minutes after school starts. Then in the afternoon, they would come on again from just before school finishes for the day for another roughly half hour. And so while they're flashing, they bring to the driver's attention that, hey, you're in a school zone, you're in the speed limit's changed. The other nice thing about these is they're programmable, so we don't have to go out with our crew to every single one of these and punch in a calendar for the school year to say, hey, don't flash during this week because it's spring break or whatever. That can all be done actually in an office with an app, which is kind of cool. So I know Nampa has these in their schools. The Ada County Highway District has over 100 school zones in Ada County that they have flashers on them. We have an opportunity to purchase these. We just received a check actually this week for $200,000 from LTAC for their what's it called, Child Protective Pedestrian Safety Program, and the plan would be to use half of that money towards the purchase of these. So 100,000 of that funds, 78,000 from our electrical department funds to purchase these. I think it will be a great improvement for safety. It also makes it a lot more clear for, I think, probably Caldwell PD to be able to write a ticket because, hey, it's flashing. They should have seen it. So anyway, I'll stand for questions that you might have.
Awesome, thank you so much. Counselor Stoddard?
Mr. Mayor, I'm the one that brought this up. I had received quite a few complaints about the speed limit there at Caldwell High School. It starts actually at the YMCA and goes north the other side of the high school, and it's all day long, from 7 in the morning till 4 o'clock, and there's hardly anybody moving out of the school parking lot from, say, I don't know, 8 o'clock until probably 3 o'clock. So, and seeing these other flashing signs and the way they use a little bit of common sense on how they process to keep school zones safe, I recommend to Bruce that maybe we should look into it and just have the flashing red lights, whatever it is, 10 minutes to 8 until 8:15, and they can turn it off in the principal's office, and then if they get out at 3, maybe 10 minutes to 3 until 3:15, and that would improve the traffic flow tremendously, especially on South Indiana. And that was a recommendation I made to Bruce and to the council, actually. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, excellent, thank you so much. Counselor Allgood?
Yeah, just following up on Counselor Stoddick's, we do have these flashing lights on North Illinois at Sacagawea.
That's correct. That's the only one of our 23 school
And
zones in the city that
that
has it.
flashing light works as what you're describing, Bruce. It comes on for 20, 30 minutes in the morning, same in the afternoon, and the rest of the time it's off. And traffic can travel at a little higher speed in between those times. But that flashing light is a nice addition. I like what it does for the area.
I agree.
Counselor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to be clear, are we talking about changing our school zones to the school speed limit when light is flashing? I've seen that
That
in
is
many
correct.
municipalities, and that would, I think, solve a lot of the issue if that school speed limit was limited to when that light was flashing.
That is correct, Councilman. It'll actually say speed limit 20 miles per hour when flashing.
Beautiful.
Okay, Counselor Doty?
Just one more follow-up then on Counselor Stoddick's is, are we able to do what he's requesting? I'm not saying that that should be the final decision based on traffic engineers, but can it be on in the morning and then on in the evening, or does it need to be all day, or is that an added expense, or have you heard of that such thing?
Thank you. This is actually programmable, so yes, they will only be on for whatever period of time we select in the morning and in the afternoon, a certain period of time before school starts and then a certain period of time after it ends. It could vary from 30 to 45 minutes. It depends on traffic patterns. The nice thing is there are different schools that have different times. We can program them with an app without having to visit each site. And if every year school calendars change and dates change, and then we can go in there and reprogram that just once. So yes, it'll only flash at the beginning of school and at the end of school.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I think that's all. So do we have a motion in regards to this resolution?
Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Doty?
I'll make a motion that we approve consent calendar item number 7, which was the flashing light at the schools.
And
Second.
Motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddick. Do we need to do a roll call vote, or is this voice vote?
Actually, it's an expenditure, so you need to do.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Do we have it?
No, we don't have it, so I'll just do it.
Okay, so it's a motion from Counselor Doty with a second from Counselor Stoddick. And Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Yes. Doty?
Yes.
Stotty?
Yes.
Register?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Allgood?
Yes.
Dittenber?
Yes.
Very good, and that motion passes unanimously. And that'll move us on to our regularly planned new business items. For our first one is an informational item only, so no action will be taken on this. This is just for information. And this is an update report from our airport manager, or Director of Aviation, Scott Swanson, regarding the strategic planning development process for the Caldwell Executive Airport. Or John, are you giving it? Yes. So, okay, very good. And I know there's been a lot of work put into this, and with the recent open houses you've had, and I just have to say thank you for all of the time. It is a volunteer position, and you've given significant amount of time in that, and we appreciate that. I know we have at least one more member of the airport board that is here, so appreciate you being here as well, and the time that you give in that service also, so.
Yeah, we've got our fearless chairman
Chair,
of the
right?
airport board, Randy
Yep.
Neary, you guys know, and of
Yeah,
course
we appreciate
Scott.
you, Randy, thanks
Did
so
you
much.
say clueless? What did you say?
No, I said fearless.
Oh,
So John Crydell, for the record, I'm on the Airport Advisory Board. So what is the future of Caldwell Executive Airport? Found that graphic online, I thought it was kind of cool. But the main thing is, we tried to, as we talk about doing strategic planning, we tried to talk about the future. What happens 15, 20 years from now? So our stakeholder strategic planning process was focused on stakeholders. We went out and we invited a whole bunch of people to participate. We've had meetings, 4 stakeholder meetings we've completed. The first ones were members of the public, pilots, hangar owners, business owners. And then the one we had on February 27th, we invited federal and state stakeholders. So we had representatives there from U.S. Senator Risch, Senators Crapo, and U.S. House Member Fulcher attended our meeting. So, which was really extraordinary to have them be there and ask what they could do to help. It was very enlightening for them. We also had the Idaho Aviation Association. We invited folks from Idaho Economic Development, but they couldn't make it at the last minute. We did have somebody there from the Idaho Transportation Department and 2 representatives from TSA. So it gave us a little different perspective of what's going on. So what we're working on is kind of a traditional strategic plan, not to be confused with this beast, which the City Council approved in 2021, in November of 21. This is the airport master plan. It talks about physical layout of the airport and what makes a whole bunch of rosy projections about what the future might look like. So that's not what we're working on. We're working on a 3-year time frame, but specifically coming up with goals and objectives for the next 2 years. So also last Thursday, I'm very grateful, council members Register and Allgood attended our 3-hour meeting, which was enlightening for both parties, both the board and I think for the council members. We learned a lot, I think, about the history, especially from Councilman Allgood. So we're making progress. Goal tonight, give you kind of an update of where we are and then what's going to come next. So the process that we're using, I talked to you last time, is called IGOA, Issues, Goals, Obstacles, and Action Steps. It's kind of a simplified way to do business planning. So we identified some big ones. There were probably 35 issues that came up from the public, from pilots, from the TSA, and we melded all those down, and then we did kind of a ranking process. But the ones that I'm just going to touch on tonight are one that you would expect to be on there, and it was the one that got the most votes as far as ranking, and that's we don't have a control tower. And that's a biggie. Knock on wood, there has not been a really bad accident, but it could happen and be in the news any day. We have a huge safety problem here. We are, as a pilot who flies in and out of there, it's spooky. I call it the Wild Wild West. I went through this personally over in Aurora, Oregon, where there was no tower and went to a contracted tower. We need one, and we need it bad, but there's 2 reasons. One is safety, and the other one is it's inhibiting our growth. The kind of businesses that Mayor and the Economic Development team are trying to recruit into Caldwell, they want to fly light turboprops and jets, light jets, into the airport. They can't do that because their insurance companies require them to have a tower. So that's an issue. The other big issue that we came up with is lack of infrastructure. Right now, there's no sewer, there's no electricity, there's no plumbing on the undeveloped side of the airport. So when somebody wants to come and do a development, it's incredibly cost prohibitive. So we've got to address that issue. As you guys know, there's no restaurant. And that's a social thing for the airport. The airport should be happy places for families to come visit. So we need to address that, and I think there's going to be a development project that I know you're all aware of. It's Silverhawk Aviation. That'll help, but that'll be before you to approve. The last issue that came up was perception. And this, we spent a lot of time talking about this with the two council members who were there. The city designation and public perception that the Caldwell Executive Airport is not an amenity, but rather a profit center, causing lack of city, state, and federal understanding of the overall economic impact for the Treasure Valley, state of Idaho, as well as causing lack of investment in the airport. So we know we have a perception problem as the board. And we take that responsibility on, and one of the things that we're going to be working on this perception issue is a goal of education and information, and also defining what the airport should be into the future for the different stakeholders, general aviation, pilots, businesses, and the like. But that's our problem, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to come before you tonight and let you know where we are. So the city owns this big asset. Last time I was here, I think I described it as a crown jewel. But my thought process is, and the board's thought process is, it's very undervalued. So we have this perception issue to deal with. The city owns other assets. They own, obviously, the city plunge. I know politically probably not something I should bring up, but I'm bringing it up. City spent a lot of money on a plunge that's open for just a few months of the year, probably doesn't have a big economic impact. Same thing for the golf course. So one of the things we have to do is tell the story about how the Caldwell Airport impacts the regional economy, and we're going to do that. And hopefully we can get some help from the state of Idaho, because it's a big project. Also, the buildings, the taxes are about $500,000, that the property taxes that come in, of which about $300,000 comes back to the city currently. So as we sat back and talked to the people from the federal agencies, we started saying, okay, back to like that first slide, what about the future, and what's happened in other areas? So just trying to do some planning for the future on a macro basis. There's something called a designated reliever by the FAA. So I put before you just a really simple side-by-side. And in Salt Lake City, the population is about 1.26 million. That's from the Commerce Department, Standard Metropolitan Statistical Abstracts. That's a big bunch of data that gets put together. You guys are probably well aware of that. GDP for the Salt Lake area, 215 billion. Obviously moderate growth, like much of the other Northwest towns. For Salt Lake City, there's 2 designated relievers. If you look at Boise, on the other hand, our population's about 865, GDP about 50 billion, although I gotta spend a little bit of time on that. It seems light to me, but a lot of retired people like me moving in here. But, so maybe that's it. But obviously very high growth. And a lot of the projects that come before you guys, I don't see that stopping in Boise. So is there a FAA designated reliever airport in the Boise area? Does anybody know? There is, but you look at those numbers and you look at what's happened in Portland, you look at what happened in Seattle, Reno, Spokane. As the business picks up, you got the Boise airport, there's a lot more Delta flights being added, Alaska flights. That puts pressure and with the general aviation population flying into the Boise Airport. So there actually is one FAA designated reliever, and it happens to be Caldwell. Now, are we ready to handle the kind of growth that's already happened? Are we teed up to take on that extra general aviation and light jet traffic? We're not. And I think, don't want to put words in your mouth, Councilman Allgood, but it had been a while since you'd had an update and had a good discussion, but I think you said, we're behind the 8 ball. We're behind. And that's a concern. So a reliever airport provides an alternative for businesses and general aviation traffic for commercial airports while improving access to the Caldwell community. So to be clear, we're not talking about landing Delta jets here at the Caldwell Airport. I won't say never, but I'd say probably never because we're landlocked. The runway's not big enough. We're talking about planes just like you see here, light, small pistons, like the one at the top there, small jets that are generally business related, and turboprops. So the FAA is designated Caldwell as a reliever. So one of the things that is important to recognize is that this Caldwell's Airport is the largest airport based on a couple of factors. It's the largest airport in the country without a control tower, and that's based on number of aircraft that are domiciled here at the airport. There's 579. 579 blows away the numbers that were done in 2021. We're well above that. So that's why I say we have a big safety problem. We're the busiest airport in Idaho. 150,000 operations a year, 400 a day, roughly. And that's takeoffs and landings. So we're not prepared for what the board believes is coming. We think there's a much bigger economic reach than just Caldwell for the airport. And when you compare it to other assets that the city owns, our job is to make sure we get that information to you. We're going to need federal, state, and city collaboration to make the improvements that we need here to get ready for what's coming. There's no other existing options for this not to be the reliever to take on, as Boise Airport grows, to take on that piston and light jet traffic. There's no other option. There's no other airport. They're not building any more airports. I mean, it's rare that they would do a new airport. And so we have a choice here in how we develop the airport. If we don't do it right, there's going to be a bunch of rework, and it's going to be expensive. One of the folks in our meeting said, Governor Little should be down here saying, what can we do to get this rolling? Because if they have to go 20 miles south of Boise to slap in another airport out there, the cost will be phenomenal, and we don't want that. So we've got one chance to do this correctly without a bunch of rework, and that's the annual strategic plan. And we're going to need your help, and we're going to need the Fed's help. Next steps. We've got the issues ranked that we're going to work on. We've got some goals done. We brainstormed obstacles and action steps. So Scott and Randy, the rest of the board, we've got a lot of work to do in the next 60 days so that we can put a combined operating budget, strategic plan budget in front of you for 26. So that's the next step. Questions?
Very good. Questions? They're going for it. Councilor Stoddard.
Mr. Mayor, what do you consider light jets for business? Like Hawker 700s or something smaller
Probably
than that? Or
10 seat or less.
10 seats or less?
10 seats or less, about like the one you saw pictured there.
Okay, so it would take a Hawker 700 or thereabouts?
Yeah, you could probably get that in here. Without, the question becomes the length of the runway. And this plan here calls for the closure of Linden.
Because I
And
think
that
one
would
of,
add about 1,500 feet. And eventually, I'll say that's probably going to have to happen.
because I think that some of the more modern businesses use those type of planes, and I think you better have it in your plans to make sure that there's enough runway for those.
Good point.
Thank you.
Councilor Doty?
Yes, thank you. How was you mentioned the federal effort and our effort. Did you get a good response from the state representatives that were there?
Yes, although the main guy wasn't there and the economic development person wasn't there. I wanted them to come because I think if we're smart, there may be some businesses we could attract from other states to have employees that need aviation runway access. The federal response was, what can we do to help? And that I thought was very strong. They want to be involved, they want to participate, and we're going to need that because the money that's, and Scott, if I screw this up, you correct me, but the money that we're hoping to get for a control tower is, and I'll use air quotes, Biden infrastructure money. Unfortunately, they spec a tower that is very green and very expensive. Scott just told me that the Sun Valley is putting in a new control tower because they do have commercial air traffic going in and out there. Their plan on doing it for about 10 million. And our number is about 2 times that. And part of it, a big part of it, is the spec of the tower that we have to purchase. So I'm hopeful that we can get the federal and the state involved in the process, and that's why we included them from the beginning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, oh, did you have one, Councilor Allgood?
Not really a question, but I really appreciate the ability to attend. It was a very informative workshop. I was glad I went. But I was on the airport commission when we drafted the 20-year plan. And to go to this meeting and hear that we've exceeded the growth they planned for 20 years in the first 5 years is just shocking. Like I said at the meeting, based on those numbers, we're way behind. We're going to have to do something to catch up. I'm glad these guys are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much. Yeah, doing an incredible job. Yeah, Scott, did you have something to add?
I can say one comment on that, Mr. Mayor. Scott Swanson, Director of Aviation, especially to what Chris just said. So the master plan that John has, and this I think just kind of goes for everything around the Idaho area at this time, but the projections in here for growth or CAGR or combined annual growth rate were projected at 2.2%. Whereas the Caldwell Executive Airport growth rate over the last 5 years has actually been 8.8%. So we are intaking an additional 35 planes every year for the past 5 years. And that's how far these numbers are off. So I can only imagine just across the state in general, when it comes to transportation department's projections, they're probably all looking the same. And I'm sure everybody's trying to figure out how to find the money and catch up to where we need to be. But that's just how far off this book is on the population projections for the airport in this area.
No. Well, good. So, okay, thank you for that additional information. And thank you
Mayor.
again.
Thank you, City
And
Council.
I think just with John and Randy and the entire board, just speaks volumes to what a properly functioning board can accomplish. What they've been able to do in just, let's say, the last year is just, it's mind-blowing, it really is. So we just appreciate all the effort and the time they give in. Again, volunteering for that, but it is so needed, and you guys are great examples of why it's needed to have a functioning board, and you're a great example for all the others. So thank you so much for what you do. We appreciate it. That'll move us into our next item. So this is a legislative public hearing to receive public comment regarding an additional rental fee for the Caldwell Train Depot Event Center in the amount of $200 plus tax for the small meeting room. Ray Lynn.
I figured I wouldn't make the city clerk walk down here, so. This is for, as you know, at the train depot, we used to have a room that we put in some ADA access and kind of updated. And so now we just need a fee to be able to rent that out to cover that meeting space. So that's what this fee does. It's a brand new fee. That's never been established before, so.
Good. Thank you so much. Any questions for Lynn?
I have questions.
Oh, yes. Council Register.
She left.
Oh. So- She's coming back.
I wanted to find out who came up with the $200?
Debbie and I worked together on that. We did some analysis, especially because the total rental of the train depot, I believe is $550? $450.
Okay. Because I was looking up some, like, I know over at the Farah Building for one room, it's $250. I don't know how much bigger it is. I felt like the 200 was a little high for community use, but that's why I was wondering where the fee came from, because I know Debbie's really been heavily involved in that. So are people that are renting that room more community oriented, or who would rent it, or who uses it?
Well, we just emptied that room. That was the museum room. And so it's not as large as what they are renting over there at the Expo Center for the Kingman County.
Okay.
So it was the room that was originally the baggage room, and we're calling it the train room now, but it will be for smaller events. And we actually have had some interest on it, and they felt that the proposed fee, because we haven't obligated it to this point, but they thought it was fair.
Okay, for some reason I was thinking it was the other room on the other side, just that sort of small area, so
Yeah.
that's why I was like,
So that's,
wondering about it.
the other two areas, plus the one in the middle, is all considered the event center. This is a separate one. However, they can rent all of it if they want to, and we would just put that in with the other cost.
Okay.
But if they're renting it separately, we're going with the $200 plus tax. And the idea of that is to keep it contained within that room and not have the other rooms being used, except we have to have accessibility to the restrooms. So
Yep.
it will be open for the restroom use as well, but we've already had some interest in that because some people want it for meetings or maybe a small gathering.
Okay. No, I appreciate the clarification. That makes much more sense than what I was thinking.
Thank you so much. Councilor Doty, you had a question?
I'm ready to make a motion unless Counselor Dittenberg has a
So,
question.
real quick, we do need to, so does require, as a public hearing, so we do need to close that first. There is nobody signed up to testify, so a motion though to close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
So moved.
In a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. So then, now, yes, we can move forward into.
You sure you want? Okay. All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve resolution number 104-25, approving the rental fee of $200 plus tax for the small meeting room located in the Caldwell Train Depot Event Center.
Good. And so we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Dittenberg for approval. Discussion. Councilor Dittenberg.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to take an opportunity to speak about the depot and all the work that Debbie's done to make sure the depot is open to the public, and all the efforts that went into it, and Debbie is owed a lot of thanks for that. As somebody who uses the depot on a regular basis, and I see Destination Caldwell Director right here, there is an incredible need for meeting space in Caldwell. If you want to get a group of people together and have a meeting, you're not gonna do it. I mean, the airport's overdue for some improvements. We need the meeting space, and so I think $200 is a good amount, and the thing that makes this room so much better than the county fair building, which is way over there, it's right there on the plaza. And I've had the opportunity to rent some places downtown that aren't being used and have meals catered in because it was convenient, and I think this might be the wave of the future, and I think $200 is a reasonable fee for leasing that room out that's right there on the depot, right there on the plaza where we want people to be.
Thank you so much. Any other discussion? Okay, very good. So with that, again, the motion is for approval, and the voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. And that'll move us into new business item number 4, and this is just a housekeeping item for annexation of these areas into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District. We have a sponsor of these bills and ordinances.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Allgood.
I will sponsor Bill number 29, ordinance number 3681, and Bill number 30, ordinance number 3682, and move for their passage by title only.
Very good. Do we have a second? That's a motion from Counselor Allgood and a second from Counselor Stodic for passage of the bills and ordinances as described. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. And so with that, moves us into our finance report. Who gets to do it tonight? Counselor Stodic.
The Finance Committee is, thank you. The Finance Committee has reviewed current accounts payable in the amount of excuse me, $2,749,762.10 for the period ending March 11th through 2025, and net payroll of $718,434.89 for period ending February 22nd, 2025. I move that the accounts payable in the amount of $2,749,762.10, represented by checks number 184305 through 184591, and electronic payments and payroll for the amount of $718,434.89, represented by check numbers 39839 through 39846, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Second.
So motion from Counselor Stodic and a second from Counselor Allgood for approval of the finance report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. That'll move us into council comments. Counselor Doty.
I just want to make it clear that we are not in the business of the West Valley Humane Society. That is not our problem, and I just want to make that very clear. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. Counselor Stodic.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I see my good friend, Mr. Porter, in the audience there, and I just want to make sure that we get cooperation between the proposed Roger Brooks plan and what you folks have in mind, because I think we need to make sure that we have a conduit there instead of working in separate directions, and I hope you do that. And I hope if they don't invite you to some of these meetings, let me know and I'll get it done for you. So, thank you.
Very good. Counselor Register.
Yes, I have a couple of things today. So I also wanted to, oh, he left already, but the airport strategic plan, how hard they're working on that, and the conversation that we had, which was really a very good one. So I'm very excited to see what happens with that. Also, I'm very supportive of Roger Brooks coming back to the community. I think that one of the things that is really important about this is that the community needs to be able to trust us and other organizations again. So having a recognizable name that's already proven themselves, I think is going to be very important to that. I also want to, and I really don't want to lose momentum on this, so I think we should probably get those numbers going as fast as we can and see what council wants to do here pretty quickly about it. And then I do appreciate the student safety that we're working on. I'd still like to get an update on the SRO contract. Last time we talked about that, we didn't really quite get an answer. And then the other, actually I think it was last night. I know many of you are not on social media, but the county clerk made a post that I thought was really interesting, so I printed out a copy for everybody since I know you guys aren't on there very much, to read through it if you want to. But it does talk about the long-term financial impact of growth, and it does talk about converting agricultural land into rooftops and how that comes with infrastructure and service costs that don't always align with the revenue that it generates. So it's just kind of an interesting piece. But because of that, and the fact that we always talk about how growth needs to pay for itself, I think we just keep proving time and time again, we don't really know where we're at. So I'm going to ask again for an updated report on how many doors are coming to Caldwell, so that we can make these informed, data-driven decisions moving forward, and also, again, about some kind of cover sheet with the numbers in front of every development, so that we know where we're at, how much we're going to need to sustain whatever it is that's in front of us, and how we're going to maintain that in the future, long-term. And I'm happy to work with planning and zoning on that if it's a staff issue, or maybe we can slow things down until we can put those numbers together. We did have those numbers at one point, and then I feel like we should have just kept adding to it and kept the report going, but we didn't. So maybe we need to put the pause button on for a minute, get those numbers back so that we know where we're at. Otherwise, we're just kind of voting without having all the information. And I think that the fact that our 2040 plan and the airport strategic plan, that we're behind on both of those, just kind of proves that we're probably behind when it comes to our infrastructure and development and stuff like that as well. So,
Thank you. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question or concern, really more than anything tonight. I was watching the urban renewal meeting, and I was a little caught off guard by the county having something to say about Gabiola Fields and what was going to be done with that by way of some project. And I would hope that if that were to be considered or moved forward, that would come back to council rather than urban renewal. No offense to my friends on the urban renewal board here, but that seems to be more of a council issue than an urban renewal issue. And so before the county starts making plans with the property that belongs to the city, I'd love to weigh in on it, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Elgood.
Yeah, real briefly. I was visiting with the city's Verizon representative today, and we were discussing cell phones and many counselors carrying 2 cell phones and public records requests for cell phones. And he was telling me that Verizon has an app that the city would sign on to that adds a line to each of the counselor's phone where you could carry 1 phone instead of 2. Business calls, you would have a number, and business calls would come in on your phone, but it's all run through Verizon in the city. And so if someone were to call and say, I want Chris Allgood's text messages from his business phone, wouldn't even have to call me. The city clerk could just pull that up and have all that information readily available. The difference being we pay about $50 a phone for council members' phones, and this would cost $15 a phone. And so he is sending the information. He sent the information to me. He's also sending it to Jose. But I think it's something we should pay attention to. It might save us some money, and it would make the FOIA requests a whole lot easier.
Yeah, is that something that you'd like to see also, Raylyn, on that? So, yeah, maybe when Jose gives, or if you have it, forward it to Raylyn as well, and I can mention to Jose to forward that over. Anything else, Councilor Allgood?
No, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Denver.
Yes, I have a couple of things I'd like to chat about, and the first one is the finances of the city. I don't have any indication that we're in any dire straits. I just want to make sure that we're on the record of noting that the state has projected a 3.5% shortfall of the revenues that the state was going to collect, and that sales tax revenues are down by about 6.5 or 6.9%. The city does get sales tax revenues, and if this is just a sign of what's happening in the second quarter, we still have 2 quarters to finish out the year, and I just want to make sure that that we're aware that what may be a necessity today may not be a necessity for the organization tomorrow, and we should just be thinking that way. The other thing I want to chat about, oh, and thanks for doing a good job before I get on to the next thing. Thanks for Raylyn for all you do. The Economic Summit, the Treasure Valley Economic Summit happened last week or 2 weeks ago. Councilor Stoddard and Councilor Doty were at it. And it was a remarkable conference. And if you took anything away from the conference, you should take away from that all economic projections from a state level, a federal level, and a local level say that our community is going to grow 20% over the next 25 years. That's 20%. We are growing. There's no stopping it. There's no rolling it back. There's no, and the reason why is our state just approved the largest tax cut the state has ever given. That makes the state appealing. And the governor has promised to roll back regulations at a greater pace than what the president wants to roll back. So not only are we the least taxed state, we're also going to be the least regulated state. And that is appealing. And there is no turning off the spigot. There is no saying, let's stop and wait and see what happens. So I understand fully those concerns about economics and growth paying for itself and having an improper balance between commercial and residential. But I can assure you, I've been in the housing field long enough to know that retail follows rooftops. And if we are not developing housing, we will not get the commercial or the industrial to support that. So growth is coming, it's not stopping, and if you think it will stop, let's have this conversation in 10 years when there's 15,000 more people in our city. And then finally, kind of piggybacking off of what Councilor Williams said, I had an opportunity to drive by the rodeo, see that they're putting up their new box. I'm excited about that. And then again, saw the urban renewal meeting where the county comes in and says, well, we're gonna come in and we're gonna build a retaining wall and we're gonna put parking in. And I guess I was kind of surprised that the discussion was happening about having a parking there. And then the final thing, I just want to say, I appreciate the city, planning and zoning, engineering. Anytime there is a proposal brought before this city council, we are given a set of designs, a set of maps, a set of plans that we can clearly see what the development is going to look like. And I thought the county was well short in their efforts in coming in with a little picture and saying, hey, we're going to build a wall here and open some gates. So I would like to see, if we do anything with the county, that it does come before city council. And I would like to see some professionally engineered drawings of what the county has in plans. So.
Very good, thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
Just really briefly before we move too quickly, I'd want our attorney to weigh in on that cell phone issue as well. And I won't say more now, but make sure Oscar's involved in that, because that's too big a deal for us to try to save money and end up with a legal problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So just a few things, just to highlight, and this is on the last part of the agenda, some upcoming meetings, and maybe throw in one more in. March 25th, which is, I guess, a week from tomorrow, there is an open house from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., so just want to make sure everybody is aware of that, and that should be here, is that right, Debbie, in this room? So what that is as you are aware, we do have some code amendments that will be coming back to council. So that open house will be conducted by staff to basically let the public come in and give their feedback. So that way staff can gather the feedback from the citizens of their thoughts on the different code amendments that are being proposed. And then they can gather that to bring that to the council at a workshop that will be taking place April 7th at 4 p.m. here in this room as well, before that regularly scheduled city council meeting that night. So again, staff will gather the info from the open house, will come to council on the 7th with that workshop, and that workshop will be just for the staff to present their findings from the open house to council, and then get your feedback, kind of your direction, so then they know which way to go as they come back on the 21st to present those for a hopeful final decision. So that's kind of the step on that. 25th, open house to get the public's feedback. The 7th, a workshop for the staff to present that to the council and then get your feedback, and then on the 21st to come back for those final decisions. So just so you're aware of that. The 25th is 5:30 to 8, and then on April 7th, that workshop will start at 4 p.m. and then we'll roll right into city council after that. And then the 21st obviously just be at 6 p.m. for the council meeting. So just real quick, touch on just a couple of things that were brought up. The update report that Councilor Richard mentioned. I talked to Robin this last week about that. I know they are working on that. It is very time consuming, and so it does take a lot of staff hours. She did mention that they will be, I believe with this next budget, proposing some new software that they hope to implement within, and that would be for the planning and zoning and the building department, and I think engineering as well, would be able to all utilize that software, where it would literally take minutes to get that report that you're asking for, rather than literally hours and hours of staff time. So that would be a great resource to have, and they'll be presenting that. And then in regards to the Gabiola, I appreciate you bringing that up. I know Councilor Doty had reached out as well on that presentation. I was not aware they were going to bring that up. I believe it was looking at some money from urban renewal that was still outstanding for them in that regards, and that they had thoughts of using it on that. I know that they had mentioned it in passing a few times on that. So any final determination on that would need to come to council. Obviously, we will bring it to council regardless, but I believe it would have to come anyway, because we do own that property, the city does. So if they're wanting to make changes, improvements to that, we would want to bring that to council for your review and your direction and discretion on that, as well as they move forward in that regards. And that is, and then thank you for that, up with the SRO mentioning that. We'll make sure we do look at the next council meeting to try to get some type of an update, and I'll work with Chief Ingram on that to bring that forward so we can have an update so everybody knows where we're at on that at that next council meeting. And that's all I have. So we do have a executive session that we do need to convene to, so Counselor Doty.
Mr. Mayor, move to convene into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74206, subsection 1, subsection 1C, for the purpose of discussing the acquisition of or an interest in real property not owned by a public agency, and subsection 1F for the purpose of discussing pending litigation or the general public awareness of probable litigation.
Good, and do we have a second? Second. Motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddick. We're going to executive session for the reason is noted. Any discussion on that? With that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. With that, we've been moving into executive session, and again, just want to thank everyone that is here this evening for attending and being here for our council meeting tonight. We wish you a very pleasant evening.